All right, a very good evening, good morning to all of you, if you're joining from the US or somewhere else. I'm Devesh Lathi from the Next Genius Foundation. Thank you for joining this session on micro certification on advanced placements or APs. This 2-hour session is all that you will need to learn everything about guiding students on APs or advanced placements. And to deliver the session, we have Abhinav Garg sir from SAT and Paper, one of the most experienced SAT, ACT, and AP tutors, trainers in India. And he is a regular on Next Genius webinars. Abhinav sir, we are all looking forward to learning more about advanced placements. Thank you for agreeing to give 2 hours of your time for this one. And thank you, Abhinav sir. And before we move forward, a couple of announcements. Number one is the session is being recorded. So if you miss out on a portion of it, don't worry, we'll send you the recording. Number two is this is a micro certification, which means that at the end of it, there'll be a very, very small questionnaire that you'll have to fill. And that will, lead to a certificate for APs. Yeah. It's going to be fun. Don't worry. It's not an elaborate questionnaire, but a quick, small questionnaire that I'll send you. And we expect you to stay almost till the end, if not till the very end, but at least 6:45, 7 p.m. So that you don't miss out on anything and eventually get that certificate. And finally, yes, Abhinav sir has divided this session into 4 parts. So we'll do the Q&A at the end of each part. So we are not leaving the Q&A towards the very end of the session, but we'll do Q&A after every part, right? Without further ado, let me first share with you a little bit about Next Genius Scholarship Program, and then we'll get into this session right away. So the Next Genius Scholarship Program, as a lot of you already know, is a program which helps students with scholarships for their undergraduate education. And your students have an opportunity of winning scholarships at some of these amazing small liberal arts colleges and universities in the US, and one of them are now in India. So we have a couple of colleges from India as well. And I invite students, your students, to apply to us for these life-changing scholarships. The applications for our program are now open, and I can share more details about the program in the coming days, or you can just connect with me and I'll share more information about how your students can win from the Next Genius scholarships. They can directly apply to us using this Apply Now button on the Next Genius website. Rudra, I would request you to just post the link of the website in the chat. And with that, let me just come back and hand it over to Abhinav sir. Abhinav sir, over to you. Welcome, and we are looking forward to the session.
Thank you, Devesh. It's always a pleasure to be here and interacting with people of such repute, and standing is always personally challenging for me, but really accomplishing as well. So I'll give you the history of this session. The previous 2 times, Devesh invited me to speak on the Next Genius platform about the APs. I was given about 20 minutes. So every time end of that session, my complaint to him was that 20 minutes is too little to do justice to a topic as complex as the APs. So he said, how much do you want? I said, I need about 2 hours to actually do justice to it. So under this routine, session that I do for students and parents, which lasts about 75 odd minutes, but then I would want to keep a lot of dirty details out of that particular talk because you can't really tell them too much. This, I think, is the ideal platform. I've not really structured it very well. I have a broad structure in mind. We'll keep the entire forum very open. The more questions you put across to me at the end of every round, I think the better we're going to make this particular session. So in that sense, it's also a bit of an experiment for me. And I hope I come out well. I hope I'm able to live up to your expectations and I'm able to justify the time that you've invested by joining this session and being a part of us. Fair. So that's where we start. Advanced placements conducted by the College Board once every year in the month of May. That's the only introduction I need to give to the advanced placement exams. I'll come back and talk about them the mechanical parts much later. But the advanced placement tests by themselves are complicated exams. Unlike the SAT or the ACT or your school exams, you know, what makes these exams complicated is the multitude of reasons for which a student might choose to take them. And hence, I've spent more time advising students, arguing with counselors, at times even getting into heated discussions about what AP shall be advised in what place. There's a little discord I've always had with the counselors. When the counselors advise a particular AP, the perspective that they have in mind is desirability of taking a particular AP. When someone like me admits a student for an AP, the the primary force that guides me to advise or not advise a particular AP is the feasibility of the student doing well on that AP. So, and these are two very, very different directions. So I think end of the session, that is what I would want to end this session with: desirability versus the feasibility aspect, and why collectively as a team, we need to be very, very careful. We also need to be very, very careful in terms of, how we go about advising it, because any any deviation in what a counselor suggests and a test prep company suggests is only going to serve to confuse the client. That doesn't lead you anywhere. So let me come back. The APs are taken for multitude of reasons. So what APs to be taken, when they're supposed to be taken, uh, how many APs to be taken, all this would depend upon what is your basic purpose in taking these APs. Until and unless we are very clear about that purpose, chaos would result, right? So I think the first part and the most important part of this session, I'm going to be talking about various reasons why a student might choose to take an AP. This is the first thing. The second part, I'm going to comment on a lot of APs per se, which is a difficult AP, which is an easy AP, which AP requires what kind of prep time, what are the various variants available within an AP. I so often, get that phone call from a parent. I want my child to prepare for physics AP. My obvious next question is, which physics AP? Is it physics AP? Which physics AP? You have physics 1, physics 2, physics C mechanics, physics C electricity. Oh my God, I never knew that. Let me come back to you in a couple of days after consulting it with the counselor. Right. AP Calculus AB versus AP Calculus BC is a question I always answer multiple times a day. So we'll talk about a lot of these APs. Part 3, we'll talk about the AP awards. We'll talk about the AP registrations. There is a lot of confusion on that front. So I always get calls end November that the AP registrations are closed and they'll not open again. So we will talk about that. We'll talk about early administration and late administration and the flexibilities available. So the school side of it, taking an AP early versus taking an AP late, how many APs to be taken in a year? So each year we come across some 3-4 students who will come to us sometimes around the 15th of March wanting to prepare for 5 APs. And it takes a very tough time, for you to convince them and the parent that this is not doable. This is not doable. So that's what we talk about in part 3. All of, whether I can do an AP on self-study, should I necessarily join classes, and all those things. Part 4, I'll talk about our course variants, what kind of courses we have for the APs, how exactly we're helping the student, what has our past experience been with preparing students for the APs. And again, just as the APs I told you are complicated exams, our course offerings for the APs are equally complicated, so much so that half of them I don't understand myself. I have to refer back to my team to figure out whether a particular course or a particular variant is available, and if yes, from when. So that's how we'll do a Q&A session at the end of every single round. I think the hour and 45 minutes that we are left with should be enough. I would not be required to exceed that. Okay, so here we go. Everyone ready, I guess? The first thing, why should a student take an advanced placement exam in the first place? Okay, in the US, it is understandable. When you take a look at the US curriculum, the school system over there, the APs are curricular exams. They're offered to a student within the framework, within the ambit of the school curriculum. So what would typically happen is the top 15 to 20% of the class would be picked up and they would be advised to take AP exams instead of the regular school curriculum. So if you've been picked up to take the APs, it means you are among the better performing of students. The number of APs that they recommend, it could fluctuate wildly. So you've got some schools in California that might actually advise a kid to take as many as 7 APs in a year, which is killing in my opinion. But usually it will be like 2, 3, 4 APs for the good students. Now, when they agree to taking on an AP curriculum or an AP course, the student is allotted a tutor, a mentor within the school who's going to be working with him or her on the AP curriculum right from September until May of next year. But instead of taking the regular school exams, these students would be taking AP exams. So the school does it in association with College Board. Unfortunately, so sorry, in India, the only school that offers this feature is the Cathedral and John Connon School at Mumbai. No other school actually offers you AP courses, which means you can take still AP exams as an independent student, but AP courses in India can be taken only at the Cathedral and John Connon School. But yes, AP as a concept is getting increasing traction. And if I consider the last 2 years, the number of AP test takers from India is increasing by 200% each year. Each year, it becomes 3x of what it was in the previous year. That is the current traction and craze. Why is it so? I would leave that, my consular friends to work that out. I think that's their department. But it's finding a lot of traction of late, especially, as the number of students from India who wish to apply abroad, typically to the US, is increasing at a breathtaking pace. So you see more and more interest in AP exams. So there we are. We then move on to what are various reasons for which a student might take an AP. And there's a large number of reasons. It's very important for them to figure out what is their specific reason for taking an AP exam. I could list out about 7 of them. There might be more. The first and the most obvious reason that the College Board publishes so boldly on their website is that it will get you college credits. It will get you college credits. There are other ways of getting college credits, but one of the easier ways is to take an AP and get a 4 or a 5. The sum total of universities that offer college credits against specific subject areas and what score is all given on the College Board website. Even if you Google it, you can get it in a second. It doesn't take very long. So there's a whole list, huge list. Most colleges, practically all colleges, they do offer college credits against some AP or the other. Now, how does this thing work? Supposing I've taken an AP Calculus BC and I've scored a 5 over there, and I'm going in for an engineering program. As a part of my curriculum, I'm supposed to study calculus. Let's say first year, I'm supposed to do Calculus 101, which is technically considered equivalent to Calculus BC. So if I have a 5 or a 4, depending on college to college, on my Calculus BC, I will not be required to take this Calc 101 in my first semester. How does that help me? That helps me in multiple ways, depending on student to student. The first is I end up studying one subject less. Now, how this might help me? I'm going to a foreign land. I'm going to a foreign culture. I might have my own, teething troubles, my own settlement blues. But I'm going to be studying one subject less or 2 subjects less in my first semester. It helps me, certainly. Second, largest number of students I've seen, they just refuse to take this SEM off from a particular subject. So most of them would do what? They would use this AP credit, but start from a higher level of subject. So instead of starting with a Calc 101, I'll start with the Calc 301. Instead of starting with an Econ 101, I'll start with an Econ 301. Now, this puts me ahead of my class, number one. Number two, especially in those colleges which work with smaller groups and, smaller batch sizes, getting the right professor and the right course is a huge challenge for this. When you are ahead of the curve, you have a distinct advantage on that front by virtue of your having taken the APs. And there's a third one, which my ultra competitive students, they follow. You can start taking APs as early as grade 9. You can take it in grade 8 also, but then we don't recommend that. You can start taking APs as early as grade 9, and you can continue to take them even after you've started college. So quite a few of my students, what they would do, they would earn enough credits so that it becomes equivalent to one semester of study, which means a few things. Number one, I save on one semester's fee. That could be huge. Number two, I save on one semester's living expenses as well. And number three, I joined the workforce 6 months too early. That obviously helps me. And it's a rare feat. It's an achievement. It stands on your profile that a 4-year course was completed in 3.5 years. Tomorrow, when you apply for a grad school or you go to the job market, this is something you can very proudly boast of. So this is one of the reasons, college credits. Second, this is the reason that most students in India take the APs for. As of now, this is something which I wish it changed sooner than later. This is to prove academic equivalence. So if I'm doing an ISC or a CBSE or a state board, in general, it is assumed that the rigor of my program, the nature of the exams, is not at par with the international curricula, including the American system, the IBDP, the A levels, or the AP curriculum. So I may choose to take a few APs to show that, hey, I can sing your tunes as well. I choose to sing mine, but I can sing your as well if required. Whereas I choose to study inside an Indian curriculum, but I do have the capability to study in your system. So you please rest assured that when I come to your country, I will be able to settle down flawlessly. And the best testimony to that fact is the fact that I've taken these APs alongside my school curriculum and I've done well on this. Okay. What else? A third reason, my preferred reason for students to take an AP is enhanced interest in a particular area, right? How do I talk about this? I wanted to do a business program. If I've taken an economics AP, I'll request you not to put in your questions on the chat box. Keep them with you. We will take them all up when I break for a question. So I'm doing I want to do an economics major. I'm doing economics at school. I'm doing a couple of projects at economics. But then my drive to learn more economics drives me to take AP economics, which I can also do, by probably doing a course on Coursera, on edX, here, there. But I think among all these options, the one that is at the pinnacle is taking an AP. That's one certification, that's one qualification that nobody at a college level is ever going to contest or debate. So that's where it comes in. So enhanced interest in a specific area, I can show by taking an AP. Diversity, the fourth point, most important. There are curricula like the IBDP, which force a diverse choice. When you're doing the IBDP, you cannot take all sciences. If you do it, it will be termed as an irregular diploma. So they'll make you pick and choose subjects from multiple areas. Others, like the Indian curricula, the CBSE or the ISC, they'll rarely offer you this chance, although we have seen a lot of change happening now in the past 4 or 5 years. So I've actually seen students now studying physics alongside psychology, which is most welcome. Else, I have the A levels because of only 4 subjects to be taken. there's very little subject choice. So a lot of these admission officers would actually be interested in seeing some kind of diversity on your profile. Somehow, I've always seen the Americans valuing it far more than specialization. Specialization important, certainly, but there's so many ways to show depth. A student usually doesn't have many avenues to show diversity, right? I'm doing physics, chemistry, math, biology for my grade 11, 12 CBSE. This is all left brain. Where's my right brain do? The best way to show that it is functional is to take a humanities AP, opt for an AP psychology, opt for an AP human geography, something like that. Opt for an AP economics, for example. So you can actually put a lot of diversity on your profile. I'm doing all humanities subjects. Oh, this is tricky. I'm studying all humanities, no sciences. And trust me, whereas a science student can opt for a humanities AP, a pure humanities student will find it practically impossible to do a pure science AP. So if you think somebody who's doing humanities in grade 11 will be able to do a physics C mechanics, that's not even thinkable. Let's not even go there. But what they can do an AP environmental science, which comes from the same science bracket. They can do an AP computer science A, which comes from the same science bracket. So you can always use the APs to show rich diversity on your academic profile. I can also use the APs number 5 to strengthen a project or a research. Extremely important. Nowadays, as the competition gets tougher and tougher, kids are looking at some unique way to stand out from a crowd. What do we do? Where do we look at it? I'm doing a research project which has essentially to do with spreading environmental awareness amongst my local cohorts, or working with a group of students, or working with a group of people somewhere, and focusing on some very small part of environment. And I could be adding a cherry on my cake by complementing it with an environmental science aid. I'm doing a research project on computer science. Go ahead and do a computer science AP as well. Doesn't harm you anyways whatsoever. I have great achievements in MUNs, which is what kids are crazy about. Add a dash of sincerity and rigor to it by taking either the AP Comparative Government and Politics or AP US Government and Politics. That makes it look extremely authentic. Number 6, strengthening my academic profile. I've done something over and above what my school forces me to do, which shows I'm genuinely interested in acquiring academic knowledge. A part of my spare time, I choose to devote it towards that. Again, you can use it to do a course on Coursera, you can on edX, you can maybe compete for an AMC. But I think the strongest way of strengthening your academic profile is to take an AP exam, whether related or unrelated. The jury is still out on that. So again, I mean, I've had more debates with counselors on AP advising than anything else. So they're very clearly divided into two camps, the depth camp and the diversity camp, right? So the depth camp would say, if I wanted to do engineering, I must do AP Calculus BC, irrespective of what math I was studying for school. The diversity camp would say, if I'm studying calculus at school, what do I prove by taking an AP Calculus BC? Let me take an AP Statistics, which shows if I've chosen to spend additional time, I've also acquired additional learning. So this is correct or that is correct, I cannot say. All I can say is that these two schools of thought, they coexist. Eventually, you'll have to figure out which is your school of thought, which side of the story do you want to be. Both have their own advantages, both have their own limitations. We'll talk about that at length. And the last point, number 7. Why do I need to take an AP? I oversaw the transition of Indian MBA prep market, the CAT. from 15,000 aspirants in 1998 to about 300,000 aspirants in 2010. And to each of my honorable friends present here, I can tell you the study abroad markets in India are destined for a similar destiny, a similar fate, right? One of the core things that happened during that point in time was a huge demand for early prep courses. So whereas a student would sign on for an MBA test prep course beginning of grade 12 and opt for a 3-month program, which was the only variant available. In due course of time, the markets evolved 4-year-long variants because there was demand for them. Same is the case for IIT-JEE. There's a famous joke circulating that a grade 5 mom calls up Fiji. I want to enroll my child for IIT-JEE prep. When do you guys open your enrollments? And he says, ma'am, you are 5 years too late. We cannot do anything about it now. So whether it is desirable or not, if you ask me, the academician inside me says, no, please do not start early for your SAT or ACT prep. It helps no one. It helps no one. In any case, the SAT is not even a content-driven prep like the IT. So if you give me a kid for 4 years and work with him on the SAT or the ACT, I would be at my wit's end as to what am I supposed to do. But that apart, the businessman inside tells me, let them come. Who wants to say no to revenue? And if you are not going to offer these courses at a 9th or 10th grade level, the same cannot be said about the world outside, which is always going to welcome revenue in all shapes and sizes, irrespective of the fact whether it is working for my student or not. So where do we reconcile? PSAT prep is growing in this nation. Like anything, the number of companies offering PSAT prep is increasing by the day. I find the PSAT to be a nonsense and useless exam, which serves no purpose. It's only the marketing wing of College Board. So a test that costs $120 at the SAT level is offered for $15 at the PSAT level. They're practically the same tests. So they just want, because it is $15, the schools will be able to promote it. The kids will take it in big chunks, and later on it is going to convert into SAT markets for them. Simple, very simple. Now, in terms of application, I'm sure all of us know PSAT scores cannot be reported anywhere, irrespective of what grade they are taken as. If you're a US citizen, the PSAT also doubles up as the NMSQT or the National Merit Scholarship Scheme. But hold on, any PSAT that you take in grade 9 or grade 10 would not get you any scholarships even if you are a US citizen. The PSAT that qualifies to be the NMSQT is the one that is taken in junior year of school, which is grade 11. Anything that you take before grade 11 is pretty much nonsensical. Early start for the SAT would lead to better SAT scores is a myth. It holds absolutely no water. And I can tell you 8 out of 10 times when we have started early with kids, it has spoiled some genuinely good cases, right? It's not possible to hold a student's attention for that long a time on this SAT. Sooner or later, they're bound to lose interest. It won't help them. So where are we then? You don't want to start SAT. You don't want to prepare them for PSAT. And there's somebody with a wad of notes in the hand. Hey, I want you to do something. Would you want to collect this bundle of currency and help me do something? Very difficult to say no. But then the ethics inside me tells that I cannot do injustice, even if I have to say no to this business. I think that's something we've held very, very close to our hearts over a period of time. I think a reconciliation of those two. Because if I sign him on or her on for the PSAT, it is not going to add any value. Not going to add any value. I don't think that's going to serve the purpose. A reconciliation is tell them to hold on the SAT prep for the time being and start only at the end of grade 10, towards the end of grade 10. But as an early start, do 1 or 2 or maybe more APs over these 2 years. Start with 1 AP in grade 9 and follow it up with 2 in grade 10. That's a fantastic strategy. Also, it sends a very, very strong message to the admissions officer. It's a very early interest statement. If I was taking APs in grade 9, I was very clear from a very early time that I'm going to be applying to US colleges when I go. So that's the 7th reason. I reiterate, what are various reasons for which you can, take APs. The first is college credits. The second is proving your equivalence. The third is showing enhanced interest in a specific area. Fourth is putting diversity on your academic profile. Fifth, strengthening a project or a research. Sixth, strengthening your academic profile. And seventh, having a head start, showing a very early interest towards your chosen college. So when I come up with my AP prep strategy, I think the first thing that I need to do is to decide what is my specific reason for taking an AP. Right? Because only then can I decide what APs to take, how many to take, when to start, and how to prepare. So with that, we come to end of the first part of this session today. I'll have about 5 minutes for any questions that you have. Would request you to raise your Zoom hands and I can invite you to speak one by one. Anybody with a question, please. Oh, no questions? Yeah, Mr. C. Rahul Raju, please come in. Devesh sir will have to permit them.
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
We cannot hear you, sir. No.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Very, very
not that well, but if you can just put your message.
You can just put in the chat box.
Box.
I'll try to answer it.
We'll get back here.
Yeah, Mr. Vivek Tana.
Yeah, thank you so much. My question is regarding the number of subjects the student has to take in the first year in the US.
In the US, most liberal arts colleges would need you to have about 4. Most universities and engineering programs would need about 6. I'm not sure. Most colleges would have 4 subjects in the first semester, 4 in the second semester. Anyone here could correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you.
Mr. Sohit Rajvarman.
Yeah, hi sir. Greetings. Good evening from my side, sir. Sir, my question is that are we going to miss too many things if we're not going forward for the AP test? Is it a compulsory thing?
No.
For a US admissions?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
The APs are by no stretch of imagination compulsory. They're not mandatory. And they've shot to limelight off late, very late in fact.
Okay, so is the AP marks helps in visa selection or something, profile?
No, I don't think the AP marks would have any role to play in the visa.
Okay, because sir, we have a theory like that. If you are from the IB schools and if you are from the conventional schools, so the people from the IB schools are given more preference rather than the people who are from the conventional schools. So
I would not think so.
Okay,
I would not think so.
Okay, thank you.
There's little evidence is that students from IB schools would have greater congruence towards US admissions from an early stage. Their applications would turn out better. But somebody from CBSE, ISC also can do that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
I have 2 questions, one from Ramita A. Kumar and one from C. Rahul Raju. Both of them are the same questions. Would you recommend APs to an IB student? Answer is yes and no both. Depends upon what is the purpose with which you want to take the AP. So 98% of Indian students, they want to take AP either for credits or for the sake of proving equivalence. For any of these purposes, the IB students do not need to take an AP. Because for their HL subjects, if they get a 7, they'll still get college credit. But if you're looking at showing diversity on their profile, lot of my IB students here take the AP. And it helps them a lot in their college applications because it makes them stand out of the crowd in many more ways than one. And if you're doing it for showing early interest, welcome. The largest percentage of 9th and 10th graders that I work with today for the APs are not CBSE or ICSE students. They're all IB students or IGCSE students who go on to do A levels or don't do IB. Another reason why I've seen A level kids taking, because they have got only 4 subjects to be studied at school. So they want to show rigor. They can take a couple of APs and say that, hey, we've studied as much as an IB student has done. Any more questions?
There's one question which has come to me, which I believe we'll be answering in the next section, is which APs do you recommend for a commerce AS level student?
Yeah, we'll come to that. No worries. We'll come to that. So with this, I move on to the second part. All the discussion and debate-based things towards the end. Come to the second part where I'll take you through a glimpse of the APs that are offered here that a student can take. What is it that we need to know about these APs as counselors, how rigorous they are. The first thing is, unlike the SAT or ACT, which are purely multiple choice type questions, APs have got both components. They have a MCQ component and they have also an essay type component, which out here is known as FRQs or free response questions, right? And because those free response questions have to be graded, that is why the APs results take almost 6 to 8 weeks to happen. So most of our students would get down to the art of solving the MCQs early, but it is the FRQs that they'll take a lot of time to acclimatize themselves with, right? And they have very peculiar marking schemes also. That's one reason why your regular school tutors would not find it possible to teach you APs, because they would not have worked in that dimension. So I happen to attend one of those. I'm a College Board certified AP calculus tutor. Though I don't teach AP calculus personally, and I don't even know it. I went there just because I was curious. It's extremely technical from a tutor's perspective. So a tutor needs to really work a lot in order to graduate to that level where they can tutor through the APs. So most of these students would struggle with FRQs, not with MCQs. MCQs they'll eventually get a hang of. So with that, I start with the discussion of, and the percentage of FRQs or the percentage of marks awarded to FRQs could be anywhere from 1/3 to about 2/3, depending on AP to AP. Again, the duration of AP exam also could be anywhere from about 2 hours to 3.5 hours, depending upon AP to AP. So it's a vast world here. But again, the College Board AP student website has a lot of information in it if you want to spend about half an hour, 1 hour with that. Okay. So the first AP I need to talk about is Calculus AB and Calculus BC. 60% of all inquiries that we receive for AP are AP Calculus. Okay. The first thing that we need to understand, what is the difference between Calculus AB and Calculus BC? These are not two different exams. Calculus BC is built on top of Calculus AB. So in that sense, Calculus AB is a subset of Calculus BC. You take Calculus AB, add 3 chapters, it becomes Calculus BC. So if I'm planning a Calculus AB this year and a Calculus BC next year, which a lot of kids in the US do, but for an Indian student, that would be senseless, because what would eventually get counted is a Calculus BC only. Second myth, Calculus AB is easy, Calculus BC is difficult. That's not true. So I'll share some startling data with you. And the College Board does publish a lot of data. It takes me 2-3 days to sift through that and come to my own conclusions. Sorry. So the number of or percentage of students scoring a 5 on Calculus BC is significantly higher than that in Calculus AB. Second, when you appear for Calculus BC, you'll also get a Calculus AB subscore. And you know what? What is the most common score for Indian students? Calculus BC 5, AB subscore 4. It's any day easier to score a 5. And then the recognition for Calculus BC is way higher than what it is for Calculus AB. So if you do advise, please do advise Calculus BC and never the AB. It is very much worth the extra effort that you'll put in. And Calculus AB is tough to score 5 on. Calculus BC, 45% of test takers score a 5 on 5. Calculus AB, this number is less than 30%. And somebody who can do well on both. And somebody who's not going to do well is not going to do well on either. So my recommendation, it's always BC over AB. One. Second thing that we need to know about calculus is it's like preparing a completely new subject. If I'm studying grade 11 maths CBSE and thinking that that would help me for calculus, that's not true. If you look at any of those high school syllabi for math, the way it is divided into grade 11 and grade 12 is that bulk of calculus is placed for grade 12. Even for IB schools, where the schools have an option of how they're going to divide it between the 2 years, most of the calculus is placed for grade 12. In CBSE, for example, a 12th grade CBSE kid who's completed class 12 would be able to complete calculus BC without any external prep by himself or herself. Right. I'm a great fan of CBSE math. It's a very strong curriculum. But anybody who attempts to do it at the end of grade 11, because anything that you take at the end of grade 12 will not go into your applications. At the end of grade 11, it's like doing all of your grade 12 math and more in grade 11. So the assumption, I'm a good math student, I'm studying math in my class 11, it doesn't hold. AP, calculus, AB, BC will take a lot of effort. Hence, a few things. Advise them to start early. Start early. The kind of effort that you'll need to take calculus BC, in the same effort, you'll be able to do probably a statistics, a psychology, and also microeconomics. Is that vast? Is that huge? The highest dropout ratios that we see are with calculus BC. Also, you know, with late starters, there's another problem that happens. Most of these students are drawn towards the APs sometimes in December, January, February. And that time is a very difficult time for these students. They've got multiple things on their plate. For most of them, the SAT, ACT is not out of the way. They've got school exams around the same time. And they've got counselors like you who've given them so many things to be done. It becomes extremely difficult. And we'll say a month and a half down the line, a student will come back and say, I'm not able to do it. Let's leave it. So be careful with calculus AB and BC whenever you recommend it. Okay. What is it required? Doing engineering, it will be a huge asset. Computer science, I don't really think it's a mandatory requirement for a computer science. Com science courses do teach calculus, but not that important really. Doing something in astrophysics, something related to physics, calculus AP is going to be very, very important. It will make you stand out of the crowd, show a very strong interest. Okay, so that's the calculus APs. Only thing is the most rigorous of all APs, except AP US history, which I'll talk about later. Next, coming down to physics. There are 4 APs available in physics. Of Physics 1, of Physics 2. Physics 1 and Physics 2, these are algebra-based APs. They do not involve any calculus. So anybody who wants to take an AP in grade 9 and 10 or grade 10, let's say, Physics 1 or Physics 2 would be recommended. Physics 1 covers most of mechanics and Physics 2 covers electricity and magnetism. Then you have the 2 Physics C APs. Physics C, why do we call it C? Where is the A and the B? Anyone want to hazard a guess here? I have Physics 1, Physics 2, and then I have Physics C. Where did my Physics A and Physics B go? And if I had to come after Physics 1 and Physics 2, why it is not Physics 3? Anyone wants to take a guess? Modern physics, no, not exactly. It's not modern physics. So physics C, C stands for calculus. It is calculus-based physics. So it will have a heavy dose of calculus in it, right? Again, so physics C, mechanics, is an extended version of physics 1. So physics 1, algebra-based, you add calculus to it, it becomes physics C, mechanics. And physics 2, you add calculus to it, it becomes physics C, electricity and magnetism. So for Indian students, I never recommend physics 1 and physics 2. If you have to do physics C, mechanics, and do physics C, electricity and magnetism. Physics C, mechanics for an 11th grader would have an 80% overlap with his school curriculum. What they'll be learning at school and what they'll be tested for on physics C, mechanics is a lot of similarity in there. Okay. So how difficult it is? Oh, not very difficult. Not very difficult. Physics C is doable. It'll be difficult only when you're not studying physics at school. And if you're not studying physics at school, do not even think about taking the physics C, mechanics or electricity. Similarly, if you're not studying math at school in class 11 and 12, don't even dream about taking the calculus AP. I often get a request from here or there from a counselor or two. Hey, I have a student here. He has dropped math at the end of grade 10. Now we want to show that we have done something in math. Can you make him do calculus BC and get me at least a 4? I cannot do it in this incarnation. I'll have to be born again with some different body because it has so much of math contributing it to it. Right. So in the US, you have algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry, pre-calculus, and then calculus. My 10th grade math is halfway between algebra 1 and algebra 2. There's no pre-calculus. It'll be impossible and we'll never pick it. Moving on. Computer science APs. They're extremely popular and getting more and more popularity these days. There are 2 APs in computer science. One is a computer science principles, which is like elementary computer science. Unfortunately, this computer science involves a lot of lab work to be taught and is not offered by most schools in India. Last year, one of my students was desperate on taking computer science principles, and we could only locate one school in Mohali, I think Saint Kabir, that was offering a comp science principles AP. No other school was offering it. So when we say comp science, by default, it means comp science A. By default, it means comp science A, right? So comp science A is essentially a test of Java. Any student who's very good with his or her Java may not require any tutoring for comp science. It's a very sweet AP. Also, for my IB students, I never recommend that they should be taking comp science as a subject in IB. It classifies as a very weak subject. You're much better off studying something which is academically solid, and to show your interest or your competence in computer science, you do the comp science AAP, which is about 2-3 months of effort to someone who knows Java, maybe 6 months of part-time effort for someone who doesn't know Java. Okay. Next, biology is one of those killer APs. Again, takes a lot of effort, needs an early start, is theoretical. It's a bad idea to be offered to someone who's not studying biology at school. I never do it. You want to show sciences, get them to do EVS. Environmental science is easier. Environmental science can be done, computer science can be done, but a pure science like biology, they'll find it very, very difficult. And biology, again, has a vast syllabus. It takes a lot of time. There's teaching, and teaching before you start testing them. Finally, chem. And I have some great thoughts about the chem AP because I have been a chem AP tutor myself. So I have some absolute clarity of thought. A CBSE or ISC student, until and unless he or she is preparing for IIT JEE, would normally find the chem AP to be a nightmare. So the chem that we study for CBSE and AP chem are actually 2 different chemistries, nothing common to them. Our chem is all theoretical, their chem is all empirical. And for an IB student, if you're studying chem at school, you don't need tutoring. So we discontinued the chem. I worked with 3 students over 2 years. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. So I discontinued the chem. We no longer offer the chem. Yes, we offer all other sciences, but we do not offer the chem. What else? Coming down to languages. Foreign languages, most schools in India don't offer. We don't even think in terms of offering them. So they're pretty much out of discussion. English APs, there is one English composition and language, and the other is literature and composition. Both of them are very difficult APs. I would normally find Indian kids struggling a lot with them. Somebody who is excellent at writing and reading both can consider these APs, but all said and done, they're tough APs to take, not the manageable ones. Generally, I would discourage them. And again, we have stopped offering them for the last 2 years. We're no longer accepting students for the English AP, despite the fact that we've got some very good tutors for us. Takes a lot of effort. CGP, Comparative Government and Politics. This is a fun AP. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to study the political system of 6 different countries rather superficially. It also aligns with the students' natural interest, when they're taking the what you call as the MUNs and all. So normally kids don't find it very difficult. Though this is a tutored AP, difficult to do it on self-prep. And its cousin, the US government and politics, where you just study the US system in great depth, is a tougher version, requires more effort on the student side. Finally, we have the histories. There are 3 history APs available. One is an AP US history, one is an AP European history, and the third is an AP World Modern History. World Modern History is the most doable of these APs, whereas AP US History, I think, is the one that would have the maximum value. So which AP has greatest amount of traction to an admissions officer, if you ask me? It's AP US History, but is by no stretch of imagination an easy AP will be taken. It's the only AP that I rate to be tougher than AP Calculus BC. And until and unless a student is a natural history lover, it will never be possible for them to take an AP in US history. They'll struggle. So I'll tell you something from my personal experience. My daughter is a history buff. She loves history. She's crazy about history. And she did history on self-prep. That was the only AP she scored a 4 on. Everything else she scored a 5. This is despite being a history lover, despite being a brilliant student all across. Nonetheless, she went to Colgate University with a full financial aid. And from the first year itself, she's been working with the admissions committee there, admissions team there. 3 years later, she caught the dean of admissions over a cup of coffee. And she was reviewing applications herself. And she took out her own application and put it to the dean. I said, what made you select? So he took out his pen and circled her AP US history. He said, you're from Gwalior. I do not know where it is on the map of India. You're studying CBSE, not studying anything specialized in history at school. You go on to set for yourselves the target of doing an AP US history program, which even the tutors in US would think 5 times before they recommend it to a student. And you come out in flying colors. I mean, 4 Americans count it as very good. Indians don't count it as good. But for Americans, 4 is a very good grade on an AP. So that's what brought about that special interest that we had in you. Of course, there are other parts of the application which have to be looked at. So AP US history will always, it'll make heads turn inside the admissions committee meetings. Beyond history, what do we have? Yes, we have the AP economics. Those are sweet APs. Those are sweet APs. 9th graders can take them. Always do micro first, macro later. These are not very long APs. They can also be done in a relatively short period of time. Maybe even if you have 2.5 months, 3 months to prepare. AP Econ. AP Psychology. I love that AP, absolutely. And the weightage given to psychology, or the general importance, respect given to psychology in India and US are 2 very different things. In their nation, psychology is an extremely respected subject. Out here, we club it with arts. So psychology is also beautiful AP to take. That is one subject which I think, if my school curriculum does not offer me to study, I should be studying on my own, because that is something that will really come useful for a long time to come in my life. So I've never studied psychology. I've had glimpses of it and done some applied psychology here and there. But if I do get the chance probably to take 3 months off work and sit down in a cool corner and develop a subject, trust me, it's going to be psychology. And last, the other AP that I want to talk about is AP Statistics. This is one AP, in my opinion, every single student should take. And when you advise AP statistics to a student, you are actually doing them a great favor. They'll come back and thank you for it a year later. Why? The Americans, when they teach, this is all empirical. All empirical. They'll start with research studies from day one. And that's where hypothesis testing comes in, which is something no school curriculum, whether it is IB or it is A levels or it is A level further math, nobody teaches hypothesis testing to the extent it will be required for a US student in the first year of college. That is where they'll struggle. So I've always maintained, if I'm doing AP, I'm doing IB math, AA, HL, instead of looking at a calculus BC, look at a statistics. That's far more utilitarian. Also, having spent, any AP that you choose to do is going to take some time away from your life in terms of preparing for it. So if I'm willing to prepare that kind of time or commit that kind of time to an AP preparation, I think it will make sense if I as well learn something which was new rather than relearning things that I know already. So that was a glimpse of some of the common APs. Of course, there are about 38 of them. I can't be talking about all of them, but I talked about the ones that I think are important. I talked about the ones that I think you'll come across. That brings me to end of my second part of this talk. If anybody has a question, you can please ask me quickly, and then I'll hand it over to Devesh for a 5-minute.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Sweta. You'll be able to unmute yourself now. Yeah.
Sir, my question is regarding the child who has dropped maths in grade 10. You mentioned something. What should they take to demonstrate maths?
Statistics AP and hope to get a 3.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, if you've dropped math, I think the crime has been committed. So don't let them drop math. That's my only recommendation.
Yes,
it's going to be very difficult. I mean, there's no short. Calculus is ruled out. Don't even think of it.
yes. And if somebody has also dropped science, then?
That's okay. Science is okay. Science doesn't.
Okay.
Alternate value. I mean, see, you look at all, have you ever seen an IB course choice being built without math?
No, sir.
Even at the very, fag end, they'll have something like a IB AISL, which is the equivalent of old math studies, but it'll always have a component of math.
Correct.
So do an AP statistics late on, maybe, and hope to get, it'll be fantastic if you can get a 4. Be happy with it.
That should be, sir, after grade 11?
Anytime.
Okay.
Anytime.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions, please? Math AI students, please don't take calculus. You can just unmute yourselves and ask me the questions other than typing it out. Math AI students, Math AI HL is a good math. I mean, you don't necessarily need to take anything. It also has a very good role of statistics, but still, I mean, calculus would be a little difficult for them. And, do an AP statistics if you want to further augment your math. Otherwise, it's not required. AISL is a different story. AISL is math, but not math. Somehow they call it math. It is not math. Those kids are going to be struggling with their math. Another question I have from Ms. Siddiqui, is calculus AB accepted in place of math for pre-med? Student has not taken math after grade 10. Student has not taken math after grade 10. I would never recommend a calculus. It's not doable. It's not doable. It is be accepted definitely, but it is not doable. It's going to give kids nightmares, and 95 out of 100 cases, they'll give up before they complete the prep. Because who's going to teach them all of trigonometry and all of, pre-calculus stuff? It's next to impossible to me. One rare self-motivated kid might do it. That's different. But if they chose to drop math at the end of grade 10, my assumption here is that some apathy for math was pre-existing. So you can't build a top score on top of that. One question from Mr. Raju. Mr. Rahul Raju, you mentioned if you do AB and BC, only BC would be counted. That's why, because AB is a subset of BC. When you take the BC in the same exam, you also get an AB subscore. So BC within itself has everything that AB has. So if you take AB this year and BC next year, my AB is wasted. So I never recommend the calculus AB. Any more questions, please? Yeah, Mr. Raju.
Sir, just one question. A student who has taken math AAHL, AAHL, would you still recommend calculus BC for that student?
That's a very difficult question to answer. If you ask me, my answer would be a clear no. But there are counselors who will recommend it and who will recommend it vehemently. I would not want to challenge those. It would be recommended if the major I'm targeting was something like a mechanical engineering or a mechatronics, something related to physics, astrophysics. I think that's about it.
And what about AI? You mentioned AI students can take BC, AIHL.
Yeah, they can take BC. No, they don't need to take BC because they're doing AI. It means they are not purely into pure math.
Right.
They're more into application driven math. And this AIHL would be advised by the school keeping in view their other subject choices.
Right, right.
So you would not really be aspiring for something which is very, very math heavy.
Correct, correct.
Even if you want to do computer science, it doesn't require you to do a calculus, do a statistics AP. That's far more relevant to a computer science aspirant.
Perfect, perfect. Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is statistics accepted for pre-med applications in place of math? I'm not sure. You'll have to check. Not my area of expertise. Any more questions? None? All right, Devesh, so can we break for a 5-minute break and
Yes,
take over from here? I'll join everybody
absolutely.
in 5 minutes.
Thank you. So thank you, Abhinav sir, for this first session. And so we are still continuing with this whole session. There is about 45-50 minutes left for the session. This is a micro certification on APs, and which means that at the end of it, I'll just send you a simple form with 2 questions on this session. And at the end of it, then you'll all get a certification on advanced placements. We'll take a 5-minute break. And please feel free to use this break as per your need. But if you're here, I'll just very quickly share with you about the Next Genius Scholarship Program. The Next Genius Scholarship Program is India's largest undergraduate abroad scholarship program. And students from grade 12 or gap year students can apply to us for scholarships, and they will have an opportunity to win full tuition scholarships or partial tuition scholarships to some of these fantastic liberal arts colleges and small private universities in the US. And we also have a couple of Indian universities now on board. So that means your students, grade 12 students, can win these scholarships. The applications for these programs have just opened, and I invite your students, your grade 12 students, to apply to us. If any one of you from Nepal or Bangladesh is joining, I know we have a counselor from Nepal joining today. So your students are also eligible for Next Genius scholarships. Please encourage them to check out our website, next-genius.com, or simply search Next Genius on Google, and in most cases it shows on the top of the list. And a very simple process, they can simply go here and apply on our website. There is one interesting resource which I'll share with you, and this is a resource which will help you shortlist colleges for your students. So we have something called as a comparison matrix, which you can use to identify the right college for your student. It is completely sortable and searchable, and it has on the second tab, it has all the majors which are listed in an alphabetical order. So you can really select the major that you want, that your students are studying, and then see which all colleges on the Next Genius list offers those majors. I'll put the link of the comparison matrix also in the chat box. So do check it out. And that's when I'll just pause for a couple of minutes. Let's all take a 2-minute break and let's be back. Thank you. Any questions about Next Genius? You can just feel free to reach out to me on my email ID, which I'll also put in the chat.